I went back and watched some of them as I was trying to brainstorm for my branding stuff.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I'm just catching up.
All right. Here we are in week 5. I don't know how that happened. We have 2 classes left, this and one more. So welcome to this like lousy smarch weather. We're having snow, rain, cold, yuck. Let's settle on in and get cozy to do some work on our brands. So just normal housekeeping things before we dive in. The washrooms are located in the safety of your own home, perhaps upstairs or just down the hall. This is a safe space. I don't believe in stupid questions. Please raise your hand or pop them in the chat. This is the recording. Hello, if you are watching on the replay. And the handout we are working with is the Canva brand kit that you should all have access to in your dashboard. Holy cow, we're in week 5 of 6. We're going to be talking about brand style today. The format is going to be the same, so we are going to go through a couple of points to help you make some decisions about your brand style. I want to give you some in-class working time to decide how you're going to go forward with that and how you're going to capture that. And then I'm available to give you some feedback on your work. And that feedback can be about the brand style stuff we talk about today or anything previous. I'm happy to help. So let's jump in here. Okay, so hopefully this decision will be one of the easier ones. I know that we've started off with some really hard decisions when we talk about colors and fonts. But this decision is hopefully going to be a little bit easier. There's a 2-step process. So the first thing we're going to do is decide which camp we're in. What family do we belong to? Are we going to use real world pictures or are we going to use illustrations? It's very tricky to combine them, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And I want to talk about your most important elements. So website buttons, product labels, things like that. We want to set up some constraints about those to help create brand cohesion across all of your different channels. So the goal is to choose your brand style and to define those most important elements. Okay, so the big question here is, what camp do you belong to? Are you going to use real world pictures or are you going to use illustrations? So are you going to tell the story, your company story, through the imaginative world of illustrations, or are you going to connect your audience with your product through the crisp reality of photographs? So illustration brings a very distinctive edge to your branding. It lets you play with creative expression. It gives your brand like a really unique identity that's like not really easily replicatable. Illustrations are great to capture complex ideas in a simple way. They're good for brands that are young at heart or like they want to showcase their creative side. Or like if you are trying to make light of kind of a serious, more serious subject. It might not work for you if you rely on realism and detail, or if you have your very own products, like if you make candles, you know, having an illustration of your candle is not as powerful as having a photograph of your actual exact candle. So photography tells it like it is. So it's straightforward, it's relatable, it can leave a very strong impression, you know, picture's worth 1,000 words. For brands that rely on the tangible aspects of their products, so food, fashion, photographers, you know, photography can be key to showcasing their whole offerings in the most like authentic light. So it's not impossible to combine these things. It's just really, really difficult. And when you're starting out, I'd really encourage you to choose one path. And I'd also encourage you to think about how you're treating your pictures or illustrations. If you're using illustrations in Canva, I can show you in Canva how to find some illustrations and how to figure out who that illustrator is and to grab more illustrations by that same illustrator so the style is all the same. And if you're doing photography, there's a similar way to do that, to figure out the same photographer and help, capture that style. If you're going to put a specific filter on a photograph, you want to replicate that throughout everything that you do. Okay, so that's the first step in this process. And now the second step is your most important elements. So if you think about way back when, class number 1, I asked you to come up with a list of touch points. And wait for it, touched on this list a couple of times, but now we're going to look at it again. Website, t-shirt, social media. What is that list of touch points for you? And what are the most important elements across those touch points? Is it website buttons? Do you use arrows? Like if you're like me, I use arrows a lot because I want to annotate things. I want to show people like, hey, your brand could be better in this way, or like this color's not right, or that font should be changed. So, I have an arrow that I use all the time across all of my presentations and my website and everything. So it could be arrows. Buttons, you want your website button to use the brightest of your brand colors, and you want that color to be the same across the entire site so that anytime anyone sees this shape with this color, they know, oh, that's clickable. That's something they want me to do. You could think about like you can have, one of the things I wanted to mention when we were talking about photographs versus illustrations, those are different from icons. You can have icons on your website that explain certain processes, like, we meet together and you have a little icon of a calendar, then I take an intake from you and you have, a little notepad or something. Those are okay. If you have photographs and icons, perfectly fine. It's just having like the same woman, a picture of a woman and an illustration of a woman. There's two different vibes there, and it's really hard to mix the two. But so when you're going through, your website, maybe you have like a sales one-pager that you want to hand out or a brochure. Maybe there's icons on that. The icons should be the exact same icons as you use on your website or on social media. So you need to define them. So today's class is all going to be about figuring out which camp you're in and starting to define some like constraints. I'm going to use real world photos. I'm going to put this filter on them. They're always going to be first person, or they're going to be of the object. I don't know, whatever applies to you. Or I'm going to use illustrations. They're going to be by this illustrator, or I'm always going to draw them myself. I'm thinking of you, Tammy. And then, when I talk about time, if I talk about timing on my website, I'm going to use this little icon of the clock. And then that same little icon, I'm going to use it on social media, and I'm going to save it. So I want to show you in the Canva file. So, gosh, we're on page like 14 here, getting close to the end. Last time we talked about logo shape, and then today we're going to start on page 14 and start to add reference photos. So like photos that you have taken, or a vibe, like, kind of like a mood board of how you want your brand style to come across. And then I left you another page where you could put like illustrations if you want that. And then I left you another page to add any notes about website buttons or arrows or anything else you want to capture so that you can stay consistent across all of your channels. So, does anyone have any questions before we get to the make it time? Okay, quiet group. So I'm going to end the recording here. See you later on the replay, and we'll get to work.